Hey, everybody. Now, let me just hit this button real quick here. There we go. All right. Hey, this is Carl for Carl's Opinion. Welcome to our Thursday night, late night live show. And we have a lot of news to cover. And, hold on. Let me get rid of this little volume control here. Boom. All right. There we go. But anyway, yeah, it's a little bit late. It's 10:30 on the West Coast, 1:30 on the East Coast. And big story today. And Carl's Opinion, we don't duck stories because they're not necessarily great news. But you always got to watch out. Again, you got to be really, really careful when you watch, MSNBC or CNN or the mainstream media. You got to watch out because the way they present a story, I mean, again, they're really good at this. They're really good at propaganda. You'll hear a story, you go, oh. Even Laura Ingraham last night, she really was kind of like, oh, this whole thing with Trump and saying, well, gee, if, some foreign government, he used like Norway as an example, even though Stephanopoulos or whatever the hell his name is. Hey, Lee Fogelsong, how you doing? But, even Laura Ingraham didn't have much of an answer last night to the whole, Trump, interview with like, well, if some foreign power like Norway gave me information, yeah, I'd use it. And, maybe I'd go to the FBI, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. But it was like one of those things where like, oh no, what's Trump doing? Oh my God, he's going to get in trouble. He's saying he'll accept foreign assistance from a foreign country, on an election. If some foreign country has dirt on the opposition candidate. So you always got to be like, you always got to like kind of like when you hear these stories, instead of immediately reacting, I've learned this over the last couple of years. Since the 2016 election, since like June of 2016, when I stopped watching the mainstream media full time, and you got to back up for a second and just kind of say, wait a second, let's think about this. Again, these people, they're prepared for these things. When they present a story, they've already focus grouped it within the office and everything else, and they're trying to present it in the worst light possible against conservatives, against Republicans, and then specifically against Donald Trump, which they've been doing for the last 3 years. Which has really been outrageous. So when you hear the story initially and you hear the reaction and even some knee-jerk reaction from some rhino Republicans, you get kind of a little concerned. And then you realize, wait a second, this sounds familiar. Like accepting assistance from a foreign country to get dirt on an opposition political candidate. And you kind of say, where have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before? Where have I heard this story before? It's like, wait a second. The damn Steele dossier. It's like, wait, that's what Hillary Clinton was doing. Hillary Clinton, was, getting information. And I love Tucker had this one Democratic operative on tonight, and that I'll get to that in a second. But it's like, here's Hillary Clinton paying a former British intelligence agent, worked for MI6, and who was actually getting his source material from high-level, which he told the Clinton campaign, high-level Russian intel sources were providing the dirt information on Donald Trump. And so there's a foreign government, high-level intel sources. Well, high-level intel. Well, President Putin runs Russia, and he was former KGB, and trust me, nothing comes out of Russia without Putin's hands on it. And obviously the Clinton campaign, and everybody else who knows anything about the Russian, Clinton knows a lot about Russia, knows just that. So here's Clinton paying somebody a lot of money, and that guy's paying a lot of money to these Russian intel sources to get dirt on an opposition political candidate. And Trump even brought up some tweets from her former chairman of her campaign committee. He was saying, at the time when he was tweeting, like, gee, I wish I knew I could have helped this guy back. He was saying this back in 2017. I would have gone to Russia myself with this guy to verify all this stuff so we could have used it in the campaign, that kind of nonsense. So, you got to be, when you hear these stories, kind of step back for a second. And, here we go. Here's a story from the Washington Times talking about candidate Hillary Clinton endorsed the idea of political dirt from overseas. And let's get to this, and we'll get to what the FEC chairwoman said, the Democratic appointee FEC chairwoman, what she had to say about it, and we'll kind of break that down a little bit. And of all places, we actually go to the Washington Post. The Washington Post, mind you, to get to get a little bit of clarification on what she said and what it actually means. I know, crazy. The Washington Post, and it's funny. I couldn't even necessarily get this from the Washington Times or the Washington Examiner, but because I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, what's the law? And so then I just kind of click onto the Washington Post. I subscribe to several newspapers, the Washington Times, Washington Examiner, Wall Street Journal, and I also subscribe to the Washington Post because, again, I don't want to live in a bubble. You got to always be careful about that. We yell and scream about how the left lives in a bubble and they just listen to themselves and everything. Well, we got to make sure we don't live in a bubble also. We don't make sure we're just not repeating, what each of us wants to hear from the other. And you want to, and I watch MSNBC once in a while as well, just to kind of see, okay, just it's almost like a check to yourself. Again, when you watch, the mainstream media, you do have to remember it is propaganda. But within propaganda, you can find little grains of truth, and plus you can also see how they're thinking and what they're looking at right now and stuff like that. So that's always a good idea. So, all right, so let's take a look at this article again. Washington Times candidate Hillary Clinton. Let's see, there we go. Candidate Hillary Clinton endorsed the idea of political dirt from overseas. And there's a picture of Hillary Clinton, and it's a mean-looking dude behind her. Like, why are you taking this picture of her while she's on her BlackBerry? Oh, actually, this was a trip from, this was back in 2010, when she just got done attending a U.S.-Russia meeting in Hanoi, Vietnam. And she's on her BlackBerry, cell phone, whatever. One of the ones she destroyed that with hammers and pulled out the SIM cards on and stuff. And at this time, it's funny. This was back in 2010. This one she had a private email server, and you see over her right shoulder. That's Uma Abedin. That's Anthony Weiner's wife, girlfriend, whatever. And she's right over her side. And this is when she had the private server. And so basically, if she's communicating through her email off that phone to a private server. She's in Hanoi, Vietnam. I mean, obviously the Vietnamese are hacking away at it, and obviously the Russians were hacking away at it, and they're in Vietnam. Obviously the Chinese were hacking away right at the time. So it's kind of a funny picture. I'm glad the Washington Times included that in there. So let's take a look here. This is by Ronan Scarborough of the Washington Times. Okay, Hillary Clinton has endorsed the idea of obtaining political dirt from overseas, saying her campaign's Kremlin-sourced dossier was part of what happens in a campaign. President Trump is taking heat from Democrats for telling ABC News on Wednesday that he would listen to negative information from a foreign country about a political opponent in 2020. And this is the Washington Times goes on to say, well, that is basically the same position Mrs. Clinton took when she was interviewed on November 1st, 2017 on Comedy Central's The Daily Show. A week earlier, the nation learned that the Christopher Steele dossier with his 12 conspiracy charges against Trump associates was financed by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. The Robert Mueller report effectively destroyed the dossier. His 22-month investigation failed to establish a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia to interfere in the election that Mrs. Clinton lost. Let's see. So Mrs. Clinton was asked on the show, again, this is back in, let's get the exact date, November 1st, 2017, a year after the election. She was on The Daily Show. And so Ms. Clinton was asked on the show about the dossier, whose sources are listed in the document as Kremlin intelligence and government leaders. So the dossier specifically says Kremlin intelligence and government leaders. It doesn't just say some Russian dude walking down the street. And so she writes, she said at the time rather, it's part of what happens in a campaign where you get information that may or may not be useful and you try to make sure anything you put out in the public arena is accurate, she said. So this thing didn't come out until after the election and is still being evaluated. Well, actually, not really. They were trying to get this thing out to anybody that would get it public. She provided this chronology. When Trump got the nomination of the Republican Party, the people doing it came to my campaign lawyer and said, would you like us to continue it? He said, yeah. And she said he's an experienced lawyer. He knows what the law is. He knows what opposition research is. Work on the dossier didn't begin until June of 2016 when Fusion GPS, Mrs. Clinton's opposition research firm, sought funds from her campaign via her law firm to pay for Mr. Steele. Mr. Steele's claims about Mr. Trump did surface before Election Day, though the dossier didn't. Fusion arranged for Mr. Steele to brief a number of Washington reporters. Yahoo News published a story in September outlining Mr. Steele's assertions that a Trump volunteer, Carter Page, had discussed bribes with top associates of Russian President Vladimir Putin in exchange for removing U.S. sanctions. The Clinton campaign quickly cited the story. So in other words, this is one of those circular kind of things where, okay, you got Steele, who's working for the Clinton campaign, is giving an interview to Yahoo News, and he's like a former MI6 guy, so he's not saying, oh, I'm working for the Clinton campaign, through Fusion GPS and their lawyer. No, because he's 2 steps removed, right? That's how they do it. In other words, Clinton didn't, walk up to Steele, hand him a check, and say, hey, go get me some dirt from the Russians on Trump. No, instead, she has his law firm, and then she pays them. And then this law firm hires Fusion GPS, and then Fusion GPS pays Steele, and then Steele pays the Russians. So they say, so that's how they kind of get around campaign finance laws. And so basically, Clinton's got 3 steps removed. So when Steele's talking to Yahoo News, I think that's Michael Isikoff at the time, used to write for Newsweek. He says, "Oh, I'm former MI6 guy, and I found this stuff." Well, he doesn't say he's working for Fusion GPS, who's hired by this law firm that's working for the Clinton campaign. So of course, they run the story, and he doesn't actually give over the dossier to Yahoo News. Why? Because he knows if he did that, the FBI would beat him up. Further, you got to remember something else at the time. What the Clinton campaign was actually trying to do more than anything. See, the Clinton campaign knew if they gave the story themselves, like they had this dossier, right? Instead, they walk it over to the New York Times, say, "Hey, look at this crap we got on Trump." If the Clinton campaign itself did that, well, the New York Times would be like, "Well, we're not going to publish that. That's a hit piece. There's no credibility. How are we going to?" And the first thing to say is, "Hey, did you verify this?" And Clinton campaign would be like, "No, man. Like we didn't go over to Moscow and talk to any Russians." Well, even the New York Times would say, "Well, we can't print this. Plus, it's a hit piece from you guys. Hey, you want it out there so much? You got money, and they did. Run a campaign commercial, put it up on the air. Do that instead." So but so what they were really trying to do. So that's why they kept going to the FBI, Justice Department, their friends in the CIA, Brennan, Clapper, DNI, because they wanted them to leak it to the press to give it that extra sense of credibility. It's like the FBI leaks it out to the press, then then they can get something out of it. And the press would go, "Okay, well, FBI director so and so or unnamed FBI sources provided this information, to us," and so it gives that extra air of credibility. And then Steele was trying to shop this thing around, and the only person who even took a bite at it even was Yahoo News. Well, I'm sorry, Yahoo News isn't the New York Times or CNN. It's Yahoo News. I mean, I don't know who even still uses Yahoo. I mean, every once in a while, somebody will give me their email address and it'd be like at yahoomail.com or something. I'm like, really? It's like nobody. I mean, everybody uses Gmail. So, but anyway, so it's some third-rate news service that nobody listens to anyway. So they were trying to shop this around. So the funny thing again is here's Clinton actually doing what this FEC chairwoman said you shouldn't do. So then also the Clinton campaign quickly cited the story when Steele briefed Yahoo News, who was working with Clinton as a source. So Jennifer Palmieri, she's a real piece of work, that lady. Anyway, the Clinton campaign's communications director said on one broadcast, Michael Isikoff had a piece yesterday about Carter Page, who was a foreign policy advisor of Trump's, and that he met with someone from the Kremlin that, according to Michael's reporting, as if like it's not coming from them, U.S. intelligence officials believe is behind the hack. The Mueller report cleared Mr. Page of collusion with Russia's interference in the U.S. election. Also, before the election, then Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, a Nevada Democrat, wrote a letter to the FBI summarizing Mr. Steele's charges. Then, what Reid did, since he's running a letter to the FBI, because, of course, he's got this information, and then, of course, that letter gets leaked to the New York Times, which published the story. Clinton operatives busily circulated the dossier before and after the election. A Fusion GPS middleman took the dossier to the FBI on several occasions. Perkins Coie, Mrs. Clinton's law firm, also tried to present Mr. Steele's charges to the Justice Department. The FBI put the dossier to extensive use. It cited Steele to judges to obtain a wiretap from Mr. Page for a year and briefed President Obama, and President-elect Donald Trump. FBI agents were briefed by Mr. Steele in July of 2016, and as we know now, he was also admonished back in February of 2016, one day after the Iowa caucus. That's when he got his marching orders from the FBI. The FBI offered Mr. Steele $50,000. Remember, Steele was also paid by the Clinton campaign, and the FBI was paying this guy $50,000 to continue investigating Trump. Doesn't that sound kind of weird? You're paying some ex-foreign agent $50,000 to keep investigating Trump. Doesn't that sound kind of crazy? Though it never confirmed the former British spy's allegations, even though they didn't have any confirmation on it. They just wanted the dirt on Trump, whether it was true or not. They knew, actually, they probably had a good, they knew it wasn't true. Even Comey said this thing was like really salacious. It was salacious, meaning it was like really out there. It's just, none of it made any sense. Even though they used it, it didn't make any sense to them. The Justice Department Inspector General is investigating how the FBI used the dossier. In addition, Attorney General William Barr has tapped John Durham, the U.S. Attorney, for Connecticut to investigate how the Obama Justice Department and FBI decided to target the Trump campaign. Perkins Coie briefed the Clinton campaign on the dossier, according to testimony to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The communications director for Mr. Trump's 2020 re-election campaign took to Twitter to slam the media's selective memory. No shit. So this is Tim Murtaugh, and he wrote on Twitter, and we'll show this page in a second. The selective outrage and short memory of the media are staggering. The DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign actually paid for, he writes in caps, the discredited fake Steele dossier, which was compiled by a foreign national and contained information from alleged Russian sources. Tim Murtaugh wrote on Twitter. I mean, exactly. So anyway, let's just check what the FEC chairwoman had to say here. Where we got that story. Let me find it. All right, so here's the FEC chair warns of investigation for anyone who accepts foreign election help. This is hilarious. We'll get to how hilarious this is in a second. Once she was appointed by the Democratic appointee, and even the Washington Post is, they bury this in the middle of their story, the Washington Post. But even they say, this is just this is a partisan hack job, partisan hit piece is what they say. So anyway, FEC chair warns of investigation for anyone who accepts foreign election help. This is from the Washington Times by Stephen Dinan. So Federal Election Commission Chair Ellen Weintraub issued a stern warning Thursday saying anyone who solicits or accepts foreign assistance in an election is breaking the law. Not so sure about that. But anyway, the statement by Ms. Weintraub, a Democratic appointee to the FEC, came after President Trump said this week that he would gladly listen to such offers and would decide whether to report them to the FBI afterward. And she writes, it is illegal for any person to solicit, accept, or receive anything of value. Now, I want you to stay on that little phrase there. Anything of value from a foreign national in connection with a U.S. election. Because what the Washington Post actually, and I'll kind of skip ahead over to it, what the Washington Post actually wrote and was saying that Weintraub's statement, however, did not clear up the question of whether information is a thing of value. In other words, is the information a thing of value? So if you see here, anything of value, there's the important thing there. Well, let me make it a little better. Here we go. There you go. Anything of value. So even the Washington Post writes, Weintraub's statement, however, did not clear up the question of whether information, just information itself, not money, not a campaign contribution, nothing like that, not even an in-kind campaign contribution like we give you a free plane ride. However, did not clear up the question of whether information in of itself is a thing of value. And this was actually an issue Mueller wrote about, and what he wrote was that was an issue that he wrote was difficult to resolve. So in other words, it wasn't even, Mueller couldn't even say getting information by itself is a thing of value, which would be a violation of U.S. election laws. And even the Washington Post writer went on to write, the warning appears more of a partisan jab, given the FEC's inability to fully enforce election laws in the past decade. So, now this is buried. I'm looking at the article right here. This is buried how many paragraphs down when they get to that little thing? Actually, it wasn't too far. It was by Colby Idowitz. Colby Idowitz of the Washington Post. And again, I subscribe to this news. I subscribe to it. I don't know. Maybe just because Jeff Bezos owns it, I subscribe to it. I don't know. I buy a lot of my stuff from him, so maybe that's it too. But anyway, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It was only buried 7 paragraphs down. And so that actually wasn't really buried, to be honest with you. They just kind of put it out there. But if you notice, nobody was covering that little, those little 2 sentences there, namely Weintraub's statement, however, did not clear up the question of whether information is a thing of value. An issue Mueller wrote was difficult to resolve, and the warning appears more of a partisan jab given the FEC's inability to fully enforce election laws in the past decade. So, that's so when you watch the mainstream media, you have to kind of watch it with a grain of salt and understand that what they're saying isn't always what they're saying. So. Anyway, let's cover some other stories here. Let's see. This interesting story here. Again, this is from the Washington Examiner. And let's take a look at this here. Hispanics stick with Trump despite tough border stance by David Drucker. All right. President Trump is poised to launch his 2020 re-election. Let me reload this. There you go. Hispanics stick with Trump despite tough border stance. Again, David Drucker, Washington Examiner. President Trump is poised to launch his 2020 re-election as popular with Hispanic voters as other Republicans, bucking predictions that provocative nationalist rhetoric and hardline border policies would crater his support with this critical bloc. When Trump, 3 years ago, Saturday, descended the escalator to the lobby of his iconic New York skyscraper and announced his first campaign, he riffed that Mexicans with lots of problems, including rapists, were crossing the southern border. Many Republicans, establishment and otherwise, were mortified. They fretted that nominating Trump, never mind electing him, would permanently doom the GOP with Hispanics. Well, according to the Washington Examiner, it hasn't worked out that way. Available polling consistently shows Hispanic support for the president at around 30%, about the same as had been for many Republican politicians post George W. Bush and pre-Trump. Indeed, some party insiders focused on improving Hispanic support for the GOP now contend that he has room to grow within this cohort in the next election. I totally agree with that. I think right now he has a low bottom right now, the Hispanic vote. I think as the economy gets better and people's lives get better, I mean, I'm sorry, Hispanics live in this country too, and their lives are getting better. Hispanics are big into small businesses, big into entrepreneurship. I mean, remember a lot of, before this whole leftist kind of crazy stuff in the last just couple of years, pretty much after Trump got elected, because Democrats and Republicans were pretty close to being on the same page as far as not wanting open borders, about enforcing border security. Schumer was making speeches from the floor, actually calling, these people illegal aliens. I mean, which, if you use now, I mean, you can get zapped, But even he was saying that. Obama was deporting a lot of people back then. Yeah, he did his DACA stuff and everything, but still, for the most part, the Republicans and the Democrats were on the same side. Then, of course, after Trump gets elected, then it becomes a totally different story with that. So, so what are you going to do? But anyway, so I think he's got a lot of room to grow here with the Hispanic vote. The only thing is the Democrats are giving out a lot of free stuff right now. They're promising open borders. They're promising citizenship. They're promising, quote unquote dreamers getting citizenship also. They're promising all these people from El Salvador and any humanitarian aid crisis victims getting citizenship also. So I mean, it's hard in the face of free stuff. We talked about this the other night. Dinesh D'Souza covered it as far as even the immigrants from the 1800s, the Italians and the Irish coming over, and the Democrat Party leaders meeting them at the boats as they came off and getting them kind of free housing or low rent housing, giving them jobs and stuff. And then when election day came around, banging on the door and taking them to the polls. There you go. So let's see. One would think immigration would be a major anchor for him, but he's turned it into at least a push, he said, suggesting his policies would neither harm nor help the president. That's quite a turnabout for Okay, so wait, let's read this one more time. So he starts in a much better place for re-election than when he launched his 2016 campaign, said Daniel Garza, a Bush administration veteran who runs the Libre Initiative, a Koch network group that encourages Hispanics to embrace conservative policies. One would think immigration would be a major anchor for him, but he's turned it into at least a push, he said, suggesting his policy would neither harm nor help the president. That's quite a turnabout for Garza. Here's what he told the Washington Examiner about Trump in August of 2015. This is funny, just a few years ago. His positions are indefensible. I would actually rise up against them. Well, there you go. In 2016, Trump captured 28% of the Hispanic vote, according to the national exit polls. That was virtually identical to the 27% of Hispanics the Republican nominee Mitt Romney won 4 years earlier in the midterm elections. Ted Cruz, Texas, garnered 35% of the Hispanic vote, according to statewide exit polling. That figure was well in line with how Republicans have performed in Texas recently. This month, in a YouGov poll for The Economist, Trump's job approval ratings among Hispanics clocked in at 29%. On immigration, presumably a tougher issue for the president with this demographic, it was 30%. The survey conducted June 9th to 11th had an error margin of 3 percentage points. Let's see. Republicans who have studied turnout patterns attribute Trump's relative resiliency with Hispanic voters at least partly to a standard party loyalty. It turns out that about 30% of Hispanics tend to vote Republican, plus or minus a few percentage points. And this group tends to be just as loyal as most other GOP groups. Well, there you go. It's because they're diehard Republicans. So Joe Heck, a Republican and former Nevada congressman from Las Vegas, who represented a swing district and usually overperformed with Hispanics. He suggested Trump's support among Hispanics has a floor that he can depend on. The bigger question is, how do you expand and try to make inroads? Right, like I was saying, he has a pretty high floor, which is good. I mean, it's not really going to go down under that 30%. I mean, get to 29, maybe, but that's what they're saying. He has room to grow. It's never going to go below that. Hey, Bruce, how you doing there tonight? Yeah, starting late again tonight. Starting about 10:30 West Coast time. So the question. So anyway, so the big question for Trump with the Hispanic vote is again how to. No, he's not going to go down. Okay, that's a staunch third. That's a tough, hard 30%, which is good. So he doesn't really have to worry about that 30%. And it's still 30% after all this whole immigration thing for the last 2 years. It's still 30%. So he's got room to grow. So he's just got to go grab them. The problem is, again, the Democrats giving away all the free stuff, and it's always hard to compete with free stuff. But I've always said, I think Bush got 42% in 2004 of the Hispanic vote, just a promise of hey, black and Irish, how you doing there, young lady? Bush got 42% in 2004 with just the promise of immigration reform, of getting something done. In other words, you have a lot of Hispanics who are, in my opinion, natural Republicans when you look at things like pro-life, anti-abortion. They're Catholic. They believe in family values. Family values mean what? Low taxes, more money to take care of their children. They want their kids to get, education is huge, okay? A lot of them come over here knowing they're not going to be able to live the American dream, but they want their kids to live it. Well, what's the American dream? Not working a 9-to-5 job. No, the American dream for them is like having a small business, having the kids go to college, earn professional degrees, things of that sort. So you need low taxes, you need good education, you need a safe neighborhood, law and order, very much law and order. So I've always said they're natural Republicans, but when you're competing with the free stuff and saying here we're going to make you a citizen tomorrow, it's a tough competition for us, but it can be done. I think if we just work at it, I think we can get the message out there. I think we can get it done. I think we can definitely. Again, Bush was at 42% in 2004. Okay, George W. Bush can go to 42% in 2004. I can't see why we can't go to 42% in 2020. So, and it goes on to say, even though Trump has not tanked with the party, with his community, that roughly 30% of his vote with the GOP can apparently count on is dangerously low for competitive contests. Yeah, but it's a good place to start. It can leave Republicans too reliant on the white vote, the largest segment of the voting population nationally, but one that is declining. For example, Hispanics are expected to comprise a plurality of voters in Texas by the middle of the next decade. Yeah, like 2026, somewhere around there. So, so let's see here. Let's go on to the next story. Let's see. Yeah, I covered the FEC chairman story first. As far as pretty much what I was saying was that, according to the FEC chairwoman, that if you solicit or ask for any kind of assistance from a foreign government, you can be investigated. And I said, well, where was she during the the Clinton campaign? Where's she been since? She never did an investigation to them. And then the whole issue is whether or not, information, just getting information is, of course, something of value, which kicks in the FEC rules. And even Robert Mueller, in his report, wrote, that wasn't clear. That's something he couldn't resolve himself. Based on all the research he did and the legislative history into the rules and the regulations, even he said, and in fact, what did Mueller actually say here? Let's see. He wasn't the issue of whether or not information in itself is the thing of value. Mueller wrote was difficult to resolve. Even he couldn't come down and say, well, yeah, because it's tough. In other words, somebody gives you information that have to be from a foreign country, and then you say, hey, thanks. Is that a FEC violation? Well, no. I mean, how can it be? Now the guy gives you some money. Now here's the thing with Clinton: if you give somebody some money and they give you something in exchange, well, that's a consideration, and that's a contract. That's like you're paying something. So you're actually saying when you pay for information, this is I wish now the Washington Post didn't say this, and I'm sorry, I just kind of thought of it as I'm sitting here myself. What the Washington Post didn't say was, okay, so whether or not so here's the question. And I'll read this again. Weintraub's statement did not clear up the question here. Let me get back to the headline on Clinton here real quick. Actually, let's get back to the Weintraub. There we go. All right. So here's FEC Chairwoman, and I just thought of this now, so I guess I can't get mad at the Washington Post. But anyway, FEC Chair warns of investigation for anyone who accepts foreign election help. So the issue is, what she's saying is, when she writes it, let's see here. And she writes, and I got it highlighted here, it is illegal for any person to solicit. Let me get it black blue again. And the important thing is, she writes, it is illegal for any person to solicit, accept, or receive anything of value from a foreign national in connection with the U.S. election, the FEC chair said. Now, according to the Washington Post, and let me give this young lady some credit here because she wrote this. With, let's see. Colby Idowitz. It's Itzkowitz. Colby Itzkowitz. I apologize. I'm totally butchering your name. I'm sure she's watching the show right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure she's not. But anyway, Colby Itzkowitz. And so she writes about that statement she made that it is illegal for any person to solicit, accept, or receive anything of value from a foreign national in connection with a U.S. election. That's Ms. Weintraub writing that. So anyway, what Colby says in the Washington Post is, Weintraub's statement, however, did not clear up the question of whether information is a thing of value. An issue Mueller wrote was difficult to resolve. But here's the deal. They were paying Steele to get this information from the Russians, and Steele was paying the Russians to get it. They were giving Steele money to pay the Russians to get it. Okay, now you can say that information is a thing of value, is a, quote, anything of value. Why? Because you've paid for it. You've assigned it value. Okay, if you paid Steele $200,000 and you gave him, said here, and he still goes, hey man, I need 50 grand for these Russians for this information, and you say, okay, here's 50 grand, go for the Russians, and then he gives the Russians that 50 grand, you have now assigned value to that information. So now that information is value. It is anything of value. So when Trump says, if some foreign country, and he said Norway says, hey, we got some information, and he just says, yeah, okay, what do you got? And they give it to him. They just tell him, and he doesn't go, okay, here's a check. Well, now it's really hard to say that's something of value, that's accepting or receiving something of value. But in the case of Clinton, they actually solicited. They actually went and found these Russians, solicited, and it did become value because they actually paid for it. So now the idea of whether or not you can say information in of itself, is that something of value that can be prosecuted? Well, if you pay for it, it is now something of value. Okay, you paid the consideration for the item. It is now of value. So if anything, this FEC chairwoman needs to kind of get off her butt, do her job, and go ahead and investigate the Clinton campaign. But just one look at her tells me she's not going to investigate anybody from the Clinton campaign. But she had she had no problem offering unsolicited advice to just put out there in the public, following what Donald Trump says. I mean, who is this woman? She just walks around waiting for Donald Trump to say something, and then she's going to go weigh in on it. It's like, oh, thanks. You just had nothing else to do today, and you're just going to weigh in, give your opinion on something? That's awfully nice. Hey, Aaron, how you doing? Hey, what the F is it with you? How you doing, guys? So, this is, so again, back to the story. According to this FEC chairwoman, that's what I wrote in the headline for this video. Quote unquote, lock up Hillary Clinton. I mean, she's laid it out there, and the mainstream media laid it out there for everybody to talk to. I was watching Tucker earlier, and he had a guy, New York Democratic chairman, and he was saying, well, it's different because in this case, Trump's talking about hypothetical. Remember, with Trump's the hypothetical Trump is talking about. So I mean, the guy didn't even do anything. He just said, "Well, if somebody did offer me some information, I would, I would consider it." And let's see, I think I had a story on that. I'm not sure. No, I think thought I had another one. Let me see real quick here. Let's see. Way up at top. Okay, here. Yep, wait for it to go. Here we go. Doing a little rolling thing here. As soon as it gets done rolling around. Here we go. All right. So, in the dumbest thing of all this, again, based on what we just talked about just a couple of seconds ago, saying, well, is information something of value that considered an FCC violation? Even Mueller couldn't say it is, but we know for sure the Clinton campaign, since they paid for it, they did say it was something of value, so they would definitely be easily prosecuted. But here the Democrats are using Trump's it just as comment on what he would say possibly in a potential hypothetical, what I might do, what I would do, what I might do, and they're trying to use that as grounds for impeachment now. I mean, okay, we can't impeach on this. It seems like every day they're going to look for something else to say. This is what we need to impeach on. This is what we need to impeach on. Andrew McCabe, of course, the scummiest guy in the universe, who tried to commit a coup against an elected official. Oh yeah, this is it. Impeach him on this. Just find anything. So anyway, so this is by Stephen Dinan and Dave Boyer of the Washington Times. Democrats pounced Thursday after President Trump suggested he would welcome foreign government dirt on his political opponents, saying it was more proof that the president is ethically deficient and should be impeached. Ethically deficient. Is that high crimes and misdemeanors? No, I don't think that it's high crimes and misdemeanors. I think that's just ethically deficient. You can't be. I mean, according to the Constitution, look, if these guys are going to follow the Constitution, they say no one's above the law. Well, that means you're not. The Democrats aren't above the law. Aren't used to see. He was truthful. The Dems aren't used to a president telling the truth. I totally agree on that one. What's it up to you? That's the whole thing. He's transparent. He doesn't BS anybody. The Democrats, I mean, God, they just got done using that Steele dossier. For the last 2.5 years, we've been totally embroiled in the Steele dossier. It's all out there. Steele's dossier says, Russian sources, Russian intel sources, government officials. He puts it in there. They use it. They try to sell it to everybody, shop it around town to anybody to get their hands on it. They give it to the FBI, hoping the FBI and DNI would leak it, and the Justice Department would leak it to the press to get it out there. And they're sitting there, and they have the hypocrisy. I mean, just outright hypocrisy to say, "Oh, Trump said on this hypothetical he would listen to the information." Well, at least he didn't say he was going to pay for it, because then that again, when you pay for it, then you definitely assign it value, and then you're definitely violating FEC regulations and laws. Trump saying, "Oh, I'd listen to it." Oh, that's what's that? What kind of crime is that? That's not a high crime and misdemeanor. They're saying he's ethically deficient, so now we got to impeach him. No, you impeach a president, as the Constitution says, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Sorry, being ethically deficient or morally deficient is not a high crime and misdemeanor. If it was, there'd be nobody working in Washington right now. Because they tried to speed a bill through the Senate. Well, I don't know whose idea that was anyway. Mitch McConnell, they figured he'd be asleep or something. They tried to speed a bill through the Senate that would require presidential campaigns to report to the FBI any offers of foreign assistance. But Republicans blocked the legislation. They said the bill was overly broad and ill-considered. Well, yeah, considering they just put it together today, that's why you have staff. Anyone with a brain would listen to it, yeah. Let's see. So Democrats said they will try again next week because Mr. Trump's comment was too outrageous to go without a response by the entire Congress. And then, of course, Chuck Schumer has got nothing else to do except, go around kissing Nancy Pelosi's ass. So this one is a new low. Really? Really? This is a new low? Like compared to what Clinton did? The president said, okay, we already know what he said. So anyway. But, again, they're just going to, the Democrats just try to, looking for anything whatsoever possible to try to use against this guy. All right, so let's see. What's the next story I want to get to here? Oh, speaking of Democrats, here we go. Bernie Sanders, this is his opinion. And there's a good, let me pull up his picture of him. There you go. There you go. Look at him. Crazy man. Bernie Sanders. No, go away. Anyway, it's Bernie Sanders. Anyway, so Bernie Sanders, what does he say? He says the following. This is from the Washington Examiner. Julio Rosas from the Washington Examiner. Bernie Sanders says Americans would be delighted to pay more in taxes for socialist policies. This guy is totally living in a bubble. Okay. Presidential candidate Bernie Sanders said more taxes would be necessary in order to pay for things like universal health care and tuition-free college. It's like, imagine if, you're a parent and you don't believe that, it would be best for your child to go to college, or you're a kid, you don't think it would be best for you to go to college. But yeah, you got to pay for a bunch of other kids to go to college. That's just great. Anyway, Sanders pointed to countries like Germany and Finland, where the cost of going to college is minimal. Yes, why? Because they don't have to pay the huge defense bill that we have to pay to protect their asses. That's why, okay, they don't have to build a large nuclear umbrella to protect the whole world. They don't have to build a huge navy to protect the sea lanes, international sea lanes, so the countries can't muscle in on your shipping. Okay, they don't have to do. They don't have to build a huge air force to carry all those bombs and troops and everything else. Okay, they don't have to do any of that. We have to do it. We have to spend money on that. They don't. Okay. So yes, they can afford lots of nice things because we've been covering we've been covering their assets for years and years. In fact, those bases in Germany, you know what the dumbest thing about that is? Those bases in Germany, we pay them to be there, to protect them. We pay for those bases. And then our troops, these young guys, 19, 20, 21, 22, they get paid every week or two, right? Well, they get that cash. What do you think they spend their money on when they're over in Germany or wherever? Of course, they go out and they spend it in town. Those cities and towns make a fortune of those U.S. troops. So one, they get the benefit of the U.S. troops being there, 10, 20,000 guys there with money in their pocket who want to spend it. And then we pay them to be in their country to protect them. That's what I like to think about Poland. Like we're sending 1,000 troops over Poland right now. Well, Poland's been wanting us to build a base there for like the last year. And they've been talking to the Trump administration about it. And they say, look, we'll pay for it. And Trump's like, what? He goes, no, we'll pay for we'll pay for the base. We'll pay for the infrastructure. So anyway, these 1,000 troops that are going over to Poland right now, when Trump was talking to that guy's name is Duda, D-U-D-A, he goes, oh, by the way, the Polish people are paying for it. It's like, hey, the Mexicans are paying for the wall, but no, in this case, it's true. The Polish people are actually paying for us to be there, which, of course, if you want us there because, look, the Poles want us there because they're afraid. And they want to keep the Russians away, right? So anyway, of course they should pay for us to have a base there. They should pay for the whole damn base, all the infrastructure. They should build it. They should maintain it. They should do everything else with it. And we shouldn't be paying an electric bill either, to be honest with you. And we should have some high-speed internet. So these guys could watch Carl's Opinion YouTube channel. They don't have high-speed internet. How are the troops in Poland going to watch Carl's Opinion YouTube channel? Hey, Effie, how you doing there, young lady? Hello, sane Americans. There you go. But yeah, no, Poland's smart. It's like, hey, come on over and we'll pay for the base. It's like, yeah, what Trump ought to do. This is what Trump ought to do. Okay, well, if we have bases in Poland, we really don't need bases in Germany, right? I mean, it's nice to have a little defense back, a few hundred miles, so you're not on top and you're getting, if you get attacked, you don't want your base too far forward. I get that, but still, you say, well, okay, we're going to remove most of our stuff from Germany. And we're not going to pay you guys any more money. Or do you ought to just tell the Germans, actually, it's even better than that. And say, you know what? We're not paying you any more money to be there. So if you don't want us there, we'll leave. And just say it just like that. You got two choices. One, you pay us back a whole bunch of money for all the years we've had to pay you to be there. And two, you start paying us. And then we'll stay. Otherwise, hey, I'm going to Poland. Have a nice day. And they just say, and then he'll just go to Poland. And then Poland's like, oh, we'll pay you to be here. And it's like, okay. And then he just leaves. Have a nice day. And then Germany loses all that money from the U.S. troops and the service people. I'm sure the Germans would not be all too happy about that. But anyway, so let's see. Sanders pointed to countries like Germany and Finland where the cost of going to college is minimal. And then he says, but as you know, the taxes in many of those countries are much higher than they are, well, for individual and personal, but no, the corporate tax was always lower. We just had a lower, in fact, their corporate tax over there is still lower than ours. We got it down to, 21%? They're still around, I think, 15 or 16, something like that. But as you know, this is Bernie Sanders, as you know, the taxes in many of those countries are much higher than they are in individual and personal tax, are much higher than they are in the United States. Okay, so CNN anchor Anderson Cooper said, yeah, but I suspect a lot of people in the country would be delighted to pay more in taxes if they had comprehensive health care as a human right. I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. You can go to the doctor anytime you want. You don't have to take out your wallet. You have to have heart surgery. You have a heart transplant. Yeah. Sanders Independent Center from Vermont said there is a trade-off, but he believes most people will believe they will be better off when their kids have educational opportunities without out-of-pocket expenses, blah, blah, blah. So again, yeah, we all want to pay more in taxes to support his socialist agenda. So basically saying, okay, this neighbor pay for that neighbor pay for that neighbor, and everybody will be happier. No, that's not how it's going to work. So let's see what else is going on in, let's see. All right, let's find some more Democrats here. Here we go. The second coming. Obama's legacy looms over Democrats making little imprint in South Carolina. This is a story about the South Carolina primary, which is third in line. It's See, it goes Iowa caucus, New Hampshire primary, and then I thought Nevada went next, but then I think it's South Carolina. But let's see. But anyway, so basically the story's about how, people in South Carolina are kind of looking for, an Obama figure in the Democratic primary candidates. They can't find any. What are you going to do? I don't know. But all right, so Charleston, South Carolina. This is from S.A. Miller with the Washington Times. Let me grab a cigarette real quick. Oh, and by the way, the phone lines are open. Phone number is up on top, 775-273-8970. You can talk about any of the topics we're discussing or something to broaden the discussion. That's always a good thing. It's funny. I did that interview again last Sunday and went way off topic and had a great discussion. Talked to Mr. Douchebag last night. Went off topic, had a great discussion. Effie called in last time. Effie called in, went off topic a little bit, had a great discussion. So a lot of times it's always good to get other people's kind of thoughts. Again, we don't want to be in a bubble, even though we're kind of on the same page on Trump and stuff. You still want to hear other people's opinions and stuff. It kind of just makes you, just in my opinion, a smarter person when you hear what somebody else has to say. Let's see. So anyway, Charleston, South Carolina. Democratic voters are still waiting for the second coming of Barack Obama in this key primary state, where the messages from the 2020 candidates barely break through. The two prominent black breakthrough, and the two prominent black candidates struggle to make an impression. That is a problem. Turchin Taylor, who teaches at a Head Start preschool program in Manning, said she hadn't heard of any of the 24 Democratic candidates except for former Vice President Joe Biden. Oh, God, that must have hurt so bad. So many of the other candidates when they heard that. I guess he's okay just from knowing him, said Ms. Taylor, who is age 50. Her take on the crowded field of candidates was echoed in interviews the Washington Times conducted with rank-and-file Democrats across South Carolina. The lack of name recognition for most of the candidates is particularly troubling for Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey and Senator Kamala Harris of California, black candidates who have spent more time than any of their primary rivals in South Carolina. Well, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know who's running their campaigns, but I mean, they have spent a lot of time in South Carolina. Democratic primaries, a large percentage of Democratic primary voters in South Carolina are African American, and of course they're hoping to go down there and grab a lot of that vote. And so with all the campaigning they've been doing down there, I don't know what's going on. It's one thing if the interviews were saying that the people were not agreeing with their positions on policies, well, at least that shows you they're paying attention to their positions on policies. But if they're having a problem with name recognition, well, then somebody, whoever's running their campaigns respectively in that state, you might want to rethink about doing something else for a living. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you can't get these two guys to get good name recognition in South Carolina among Democrats. Okay, the state is home to the third nominating contest of 2020 and the first primary in the South, and its voters are poised to play a decisive role in picking the Democratic nominee. Yeah, that's kind of, because you figure, okay, somebody's going to take Iowa. If Biden takes Iowa, Sanders takes New Hampshire, well, here comes South Carolina. And then if somebody else takes South Carolina, that kind of throws the whole race up into, then you're heading into Nevada caucus, which I was a precinct captain last time. Yay, precinct captain. Carl's opinion precinct captain last time for the Nevada caucus in 2016. And, then that makes Nevada really important, which, of course, makes me happy because even though I won't be voting the Democratic primary, a Democratic caucus, rather, in Nevada, it'll be fun to watch. I might just go down there just to watch it, just go down and watch, some Democrats argue about who should get it. Anyway, the next most frequent visitors were Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont with 18 events. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over a line. Anyway, so yeah, Mr. Booker and Ms. Harris each have made 24 visits. 24 visits this election cycle, according to the count by the Post and the Courier in Charleston. So both Kamala Harris and Cory Booker have each been to South Carolina 24 times, and they're having a hard time getting name recognition. And then Sanders has been to Vermont. Sanders has been to South Carolina 18 times, and 17 for Beto O'Rourke. New Age guru Marianne Williamson. I didn't even know who she was. She was there 17 times, and Beto O'Rourke has been there 15. Mr. Biden, who's running a slow-paced campaign. Oh, Washington Times with the dig. Mr. Biden is running a slow-paced campaign. Has only visited 4 times. But anyway, we talked about him last night. Yeah, he's got problems. He's got some big problems. Anyway, his strong name recognition after 8 years as President Obama's right-hand man is credited with propelling him to the front of the pack. But that's not going to last long. That name recognition on polling, everybody tells you that's short term. Okay, that only gets you like in the door, and then after that, you got to earn it, and people expect something from you. And if you don't deliver, they walk to somebody else, especially when somebody else is standing right next to you, like on a debate stage, for instance. Okay, somebody with a lot more energy. I mean, look, if he's going to have figure Warren's going to be either number 2 or 3. So Warren's going to be standing either to the right or left of him, for sure. Well, I mean, look, I don't like Elizabeth Warren either, but one thing you can say about her, that woman's got a lot of energy. She's got a lot, she got a lot of energy. And so here's this high energy, woman standing next to, old man Biden, falling asleep looking at the podium. It's going to be a comparison and contrast. I mean, trust me, it's going to be stunning. It's going to be stunning to see. And then you figure Sanders is third, and he's pretty spunky for an old guy himself. And then there's going to be Biden like in the middle, flanked by Sanders and Warren, or maybe Warren and Harris. Although it looks like at this point it'll probably be Warren and Sanders. But Harris will be right, one down from that, and then I think Buttigieg is right there on the other side. So, Biden's going to be in the center of this old geriatric guy, tired, in the center between all these people, all these high-energy candidates. So, Mr. Biden, so anyway. None of the candidates has forged a strong connection with the voters, especially black voters who accounted for, 60% of the state's Democratic primary electorate in 2016. The way Mr. Obama did in his historic 2008 run, said LaShonda Jackson, chairwoman of the Democratic Party in Florence County. When Obama ran his campaign, it was all about hope, she said. This is what people need. Again, hope. We need a candidate who is really going to bring hope to South Carolina and these people living here. This is that is what is going to empower them and motivate them to vote. It's going to be hard, Ms. Jackson said. State Representative Terry Alexander, who has endorsed Mr. Sanders, said using an Obama yardstick to measure 2020 is unrealistic. Wow. That's pretty crazy. They are not Obama, and I don't expect them to be Obama. Well, but if you're already starting off saying, well, there's nobody's going to come close to Obama, I mean, you better be somebody who comes pretty close to President Obama if they want to win the general election. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, look, I mean, it better be somebody out there willing to grab as much of the vote as he did and willing to be out there campaigning as hard as he did. So anyway, so the thirst for another Obama should benefit Mr. Booker. I don't think so. An inspirational message of unity and love. Yeah, but he sounds like an idiot. Sorry, you can say a lot. You can say a lot about Obama. You can't say he was an idiot. Cory Booker, he's an idiot. Okay, so I mean, I don't know why somebody would. I don't know why this guy I think the guy from the Times had to be laughing when he wrote that. Comparing Cory Booker to then candidate Obama. I mean, that's not even close. I mean, God. But anyway, a Post and Courier survey last month showed Mr. Biden leading the Democratic race in South Carolina with 46%, followed by Sanders with 18%, Harris with 10%, Warren, Massachusetts and South Bend, Indiana Mayor Buttigieg tied for 4th with 8%, trailed by Booker with 4%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This writer, I mean, he had to be saying that with laughing when he wrote it because the Booker's all the way down behind Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren. I mean, come on. I mean, get real. Ms. Harris has done a better job than Booker in reaching voters. Well, yeah, that's obvious to anybody who has watched 2 minutes of either of them in a room. She speaks. Well, this next part I'm not sure I agree with. She speaks the truth. She's little too political expedient for me, said Wendell Hickson, 27, a car wash worker in Hartsville. She is trying to get things right in South Carolina and not holding back at anybody. My personal opinion, here's my personal opinion. This is Carl's opinion. She is going to be the Democratic nominee. Okay, Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee in 2020. There you go. You've heard it here first. So now, when that happens, then we can all play back this videotape and say, hey, Carl was right. Fred, Obama wasn't an idiot. We were the idiots. I give us more credit than that. He was really good at. Here's the thing, Fred. He was really good at having us all hear what each of us wanted to hear. I mean, you could be in a room with 20 people, and I'll tell you right now, I voted for the guy twice, so I'm right with you. I mean, I don't know if you voted for him, but I did. I voted for the guy twice. So anyway, he was really good. You could be in a room with 10 other people. He would say something, and you would hear it like, oh, he said that. And the guy next to me, no, he said that. He's like, no, I meant that. It's like, no, he said that. But anyway, now, it's one of those things. If I knew then what I know now, would I voted for him? No. But I didn't know then what I know now. But unfortunately, you vote with what you know at the time. And but no, that's what I'm saying. You can't say he's an idiot. Now, Cory Booker, yeah, I mean, anybody who listens to the guy for 10 minutes will tell you he's an idiot. I mean, the guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I mean, he's awful. I mean, he's got no shot. Harris, in my opinion, gets a nomination. I don't think Biden goes the distance. There's no way. Then if Biden's not going the distance, then you got Pocahontas. That's Elizabeth Warren. Sorry, I don't see that playing out with Slick. Yep, I agree. I don't see Elizabeth Warren playing out in the Democratic primary, going the distance. I mean, she's already catching some shit. She was on that black radio show, and the guy was saying, "Oh, you're like this woman who wants to pretend to be black." So she's already getting called out on that. That whole DNA thing and stuff. I'm sorry, that's going to come back and bite her. There's a lot of tape. Remember, there's a lot of tape on that. Now you're not seeing a lot of tape right now, a lot of videotape rather. Right now with Elizabeth Warren talking about the whole Indian experience and the DNA and stuff. But trust me, if she gets a nomination, that goes to a general election. Or actually when it gets close in the Democratic primary, you're going to see whoever she's going with neck and neck. You're going to see her. You're going to see that person playing a lot of tape of Warren with the DNA and the Indian results and all this other stuff. Elizabeth Pocahontas, Warren has no chance. Yeah. So while she's coming up, I was watching. What was that? We were watching Tucker yesterday. She's number 2, Fred. Yeah, she's number 2 right now in the. I can't remember if they were saying number 2 in the polls in Iowa or number 2 in the polls nationwide for the Democratic nomination. So, well, the reason and like I was just saying, the reason why she's coming up is because Biden's not doing any kind of retail politicking. He's too unhealthy to do all the kind of events that Warren is doing. Warren's doing a lot of town halls. Warren's doing a lot of events, doing a lot of speeches. She's holding press conferences. Biden has held not one press conference other than a couple of, when he's in the hallway getting grilled by reporters. And man, the 2 I've seen that he's done like that have gone south fast. And his speeches are really lame. They're really tired. Mark Dice showed one of his videos, I think yesterday or the day before, and Mark Dice had to say, "Oh, by the way, I did not slow this down. Okay, I did not edit it. I did not slow this down. He's really this kind of like slow. Okay, so I think she's going to start running circles around him. I think Harris. I think once she gets some legs under her as far as she doesn't seem like she's a good campaigner. And I think she's pretty much had an easy road in California, so she's not used to going out and being in unknown territory. So I think it's still out on her whether she can. Some people never do get their legs underneath them, so she may never get her legs underneath them. I agree with you. Biden isn't well. There's something unhealthy about him. Hey, Mr. Tony Patriot, how you doing? Good seeing you there. But, I agree to you. As far, Biden isn't well. I mean, look, this is not just us making like, oh, Biden, look, he's funny. No, this is serious. And if you're a Democrat and you're looking for somebody to get to the general election and win, you really should be serious about this. Because if Biden gets that nomination, it's going to be the same. It's going to be Hillary Clinton 2.0 all over again. He's not going to be able to campaign in the battleground states. He's not going to be able to go 3 or 4 events a day, which you need to do in 24/7 news cycle. You got to be hitting new event, so the news is constantly following you. You're constantly making news, and the only way you constantly make news is by new events. If you do an event, and the press will cover it, right? Well, then Trump does an event after that. Well, the press is going to come back and leave Biden alone. He's not sleepy. He's resting up from all of his efforts cutting all the cancer, damn it. Oh, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, who's covering that? Sargon of Akkad was covering that. I was in the car today and I got to hear Sargon's YouTube video talking about Biden saying yeah he's going to cure cancer. And I saw the speech when he said that too. That was pretty good. But yeah. So anyway, so if you're a Democrat and you don't want to have the same problem you had in 2016 with your candidate not be able to go to Wisconsin, not go to Michigan. Again, Clinton didn't go to Wisconsin and Michigan not because they thought they had it in the bag. Now her campaign people told the people in Wisconsin and Michigan that when they were begging for her to come out and do campaign stops because they said, hey, our polling is showing Trump's got a chance. Well, she was too unhealthy. I mean, he was doing three, 4 events a day. She was doing one event every 2 days, and so there's only so many places you could put her, and a lot of traveling and up and down on the airplane and the pressure and everything else, and she had that brain injury, so you probably could have ridden the plane a lot. So if they nominate you, well, I'm not sure any Democrats are any, but if they nominate Biden, I don't think he goes to distance. So first of all, I don't think he goes to distance till July of next year. I think their convention is July. It's July or August. I can't remember which one. But I don't think he makes it till then. And I think when he gets on that debate stage, and he's going to have Warren on one side of him, Sanders on the other, and then Harris and Buttigieg flanking out from there. And here's all these high energy people. Now they're smart. The way they would do it is they would get some good acting coaches and stuff like that, and say, okay, look, how do we look high energy? Because they don't want to say, hey, this guy's got no energy. They don't want to be Trump. People will boo him off the stage. But how do we appear to be high energy? What kind of clothes do we wear? What do we look like? How do we look like, we're moving, we're shaking? How do we sound to make this guy look old, tired, and like he can't make it? Because that'll be the big story coming out of that first debate. Was Biden able to stay awake? And he's not going to get away with any kind of 30-minute bathroom break either. I mean, if he says, I need 30 minutes on a bathroom break, I guarantee you that other people on the panel say, well, we only got so much time, so when he gets back, you can ask him a question. Let's just keep going. And then there's going to be a picture of an empty podium there, and he ain't there. And trust me, the optics on that are not going to be good, He should be... What? It should be telling them quicker. It should be telling them quicker. They don't look like death is telling them quick. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. I see Aaron, Fred. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Fred, I apologize. I read your comment without reading Aaron's comment first, and I'm like, what is Fred talking about? And then I went back, read Aaron's comment. I said, okay, I got it. But yeah, Effie, yeah, I saw that on a speech where he says, well, I'm going to cure cancer. And again, his son died. Sargon of Akkad brought this up today. He goes, hey, look, the guy's son died of cancer back in 2015, and he established a foundation in 2017. So he understands why he wants to do this whole cancer thing as far as curing it. But it's not the kind of thing you say like in a campaign event. Like it's not like a promise you make, because then it looks like you're using your son's death to pander for votes and sympathy. And if you're on the bottom of the pack and you're trying to work your way up, in an election, maybe you can rationalize it. But if you're on the top of the pack and you're bringing up this kind of like, oh, I'm going to cure cancer, it looks like you're pandering for votes. And plus, it sounds stupid. I mean, really? That's your big thing? You're going to do that? Okay, well, I guess everything else goes on hold until this gets done. So, wait, let me grab some water. And now a cigarette. Water with a cigarette chaser. Always a great combination. And remember, kids at home, don't smoke. It's not good for you. Unless you want to be cool, then you can smoke. Now, if you want to be a dork, then don't smoke. There you go. But okay. So anyway, the South Carolina story is interesting. I tell you, this is going to be fun following this Democratic nominating process for sure. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm going to have a good time doing it. Let's see. Oh, here's a story I find interesting because this really pisses me off. It's from Washington Examiner. Virginia Beach shooting victim couldn't defend herself in a gun-free zone. The husband is going to, the husband talked to the lawyers and said, as far as, remember the guy was in I think a municipal building. Yeah, municipal building because he was a city engineer. for Virginia Beach, and no guns allowed. I mean, yeah, trust me, I personally hate this thing. So anyway, Virginia Beach shooting victim couldn't defend herself in a gun-free zone. This is by Julio Rosas, again, of the Washington Examiner. A family lawyer for one of the victims in the Virginia Beach shooting revealed she had considered bringing a gun because she feared actually the gunman himself, the guy, but decided against it since she worked in a gun-free zone. Kate Nixon talked with her husband the night before. This is crazy. Talked to her husband the night before the shooting about whether or not she should take a pistol and hide it in her handbag. Attorney Kevin Martingale told WHRV. She chose not to since it is against the building's policy to carry a gun, even if someone is licensed to carry. Nixon was worried about the man who carried out the attack and another individual. The night before it happened, they had the discussion, Martingale said, so there was obviously something big going on. Yeah, in fact, we never heard the whole story on this. The shooter resigned from his position on the day of the attack using 2 legally bought handguns with a legally purchased suppressor. He killed 12 people and wounded 4 others. Okay, new. Okay, this is the email Virginia Beach shooter Dwayne Craddock sent with his 2-week notice. It has been a pleasure to serve the city, but due to personal reasons, I must relieve my position. Huh. Well, there you go. Julie Hill, a Virginia Beach city spokeswoman, told the Virginia Pilot, I must relieve my position. I'm not sure if that's proper grammar. I'm going to look that up, but it doesn't sound right. Anyway, Julie Hill, a Virginia Beach city spokeswoman, told the Virginia Pilot she was not aware of Nixon's concerns, but all aspects are being looked into. We're going to make sure that we cover everything that is part of the ongoing investigation, she said. Yeah, it really pisses me off because you have these like, oh, you're not allowed to take a gun in here. Well, obviously, if you're a criminal, or if you're someone with even a like criminal intent, like the shooter in Virginia Beach, the guy, the pissed off engineer. We still don't know what he was pissed off about. We still haven't heard any coverage on that. But anyway, so, he can bring a gun. That little sign's not going to stop him, but it's going to stop, honest people, law-abiding people. It's going to stop the good people from bringing the gun in. The bad people are going to say, oh, nice sign. Have a nice day. Who cares? The only gun-free zone should be zones where guns are free. Hey, there you go. Totally agree. I like that. I like that idea. But then again, hey, somebody's got to make some money on selling these guns. But yeah, no. I mean, it's again, good people will obey the law. Good people will not bring the guns in. Good people, honest people, law-abiding people will do that. The criminals won't, and somebody with a criminal intent won't. I'm sure there's a sign up saying no guns allowed. I'm sure the guy who did the shooting was like, I'm sure the guy who did the shooting, he packed the guns up the night before, he cleaned them up, oiled them up, made sure the ammo was good, worked the action a couple of times, put them in the duffel bag, and he's walking up to his building where he works, and all of a sudden he sees this sign on the door, no guns allowed, and he's like, oh, damn it, I forgot. Damn, how did I forget about that sign in the front door? Whoa. And then he just, walks away and puts the guns back in the car and goes back to work and then turns in his resignation letter. No, that's not the way it went down. Okay. He walked right past that door with the sign on it. Okay. But the good people like this lady who probably had a CCW didn't bring the gun in herself because she's a good person, going to obey the law. Kind of aggravating, if you will. Let's see. Let's jump to another story here. Let me see. Oh, okay, here we go. Adam Schiff. Can't get through a night without Adam Schiff. This is from, again, the Washington Examiner, John Gage of the Washington Examiner. Schiff. Barr investigating, this is what he says. Barr is investigating the intelligence agencies to provide cover for Trump accepting foreign help. Oh, you can jump on this story again. So anyway, here we go. Representative Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, said he believes Attorney General William Barr is investigating intelligence agencies to help distract from the fact that President Trump's campaign is seeking help from foreign governments. Oh, Jesus. God. Okay, I can't read too much of this, so let's get to the next paragraph. Barr's sole objective, is what he says. Barr's sole objective as Attorney General when it comes to foreign interference in our election is to inoculate the president. By investigating his critics, the California Democrat said in a Thursday interview with the Washington Post. Schiff added Barr was protecting Trump by investigating the law enforcement agencies who had the temerity to do their jobs and protect the country. against an unscrupulous campaign that was accepting foreign help. No, they weren't. That's the whole point. They weren't. Didn't you read the Mueller report? They weren't accepting foreign help. I mean, where's this guy? Like, he's been under a rock? Like, was he like? I mean, remember, this is the guy that said over and over again. He'd go on CNN. He even went on Tucker Carlson, and he said, "Well, I'm on the Intelligence Committee, and I can't tell you what I've seen, but I'll tell you what I've seen is that, what Mueller's seeing. Trust me, there's gonna be indictments coming down. Let me tell you, there's collusion. Let me tell you, I've seen it. And then, of course, Mueller comes out with a report who's seen everything, and of course, he says no collusion. And the ship goes, well, what nobody asked him, what was it you saw that he didn't see that you said there was collusion? Swalwell did the same thing, So now he's saying, oh, well, this is just, they weren't accepting foreign help. Do you understand? That was the whole point of the damn 2.5-year investigation. What an idiot. But anyway, let's get to another story here. Okay. Anyway, call in number 775-273-8970. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Two stories from Wall Street Journal. Let's see. Here we go. Well, why not? Here we go. Army post to house migrant children. Yes, this is brilliant. Actually, Tucker covered a story. I'm not sure if anybody saw it today. He had the mayor of, I can't remember the name of the town, H.R.C or something. It's in Texas. It's 60 miles off the border. And the mayor, it's a small little town, he was saying they were getting hundreds of the Border Patrol dropping dozens of these illegal immigrants off in their little bitty town. And the other cities along the border were getting inundated. They didn't know what to do. These guys actually found a way to get a bus to run through the town, and actually once they got there, put them on a bus and send them to San Antonio. It's like, but I mean, that's what it's coming down to, Locked doors only stop on, right? Exactly, Aaron. Aaron, I'm stealing that line. That's mine now. Okay, locked doors only stop honest folks. I like that. That's true. So, yeah, you put a sign up saying no guns. Well, honest people are going to say, oh, no guns. Okay. But the bad guys, they don't care, Which brings up another good point. Like when you think about security for the house. Well, one, you definitely want the lock on the door. That's important. But make sure it's a good lock. Okay. So, again, locked doors only stop honest folks. But, but you want to make sure at least a good enough lock where it takes a couple of good whacks, to get it open, or they can't just kick it and open it. Put a couple of good deadbolts on it, and screw them in tight. Use some long screws to get through the two. You got a minimum of 2 2x4s on that door jamb. Okay, for the header going across, at least 2 2x4s. Okay, so you look at it 3.5 and 3.5. Well, not 3.5. No, it should be 1 and 5. So it should be at least 3 inches. 3 inches. So if you use a good, then you got your molding on the outside. So if you use, good 3-inch screws, to get all the way, good 3-inch screws to get all the way into the 2x4 to hold on to the plates and everything. And same thing going back the other way. So, you want to use, I've always heard it as locked doors only keep out honest crooks, as in no such thing. Right. Okay. Right. There you go. But yeah, so make sure you get good locks. You put the long screws in. Those little screws they give you for the plates and everything. They give you little dinky cheap screws. Go to Home Depot, whatever. Get some nice long ass wood screws. 3-inch screws, 2.5-inch screws, whatever, and screw that in tight. And then so the first thing that's your locked door. Then of course you got to make sure your windows are locked. Then of course now if you can afford it, surveillance cameras are nice. And of course, a dog. If you can't afford surveillance cameras, a dog is nice. One that barks, but a big one too. So not just bark, 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 but can actually get into a little fight for half a second while you get your next line of defense, which is your gun. Okay, and because home defense, home protection it has to be done in layers. Can't just be you depend on the door, or you depend on a surveillance camera, or you depend on a gun, or you depend on a dog. It has to be in layers, and that way, you have different levels that, somebody trying to get in is going to have to get through. Remember now, this guy's coming in like say 2 o'clock in the morning. He's wide awake. You're asleep. Okay, you're waking up into a situation. You're not going to be moving as quick. You're not going to be thinking as clearly. Okay, at first your brain's going to want to tell you, no, this isn't happening. Okay, so you need some kind of something to kind of alert you. So if you have good locks on the door, the guy's going to make some noise getting in. You got a dog, bark, bark, bark. Surveillance camera tied to a cell phone. Zoop, alert notice. Gives you a few seconds to, of course, grab the most important thing, which should not be, which should be nearby and handy, to it, a firearm. Okay, and in that way, you at least have a chance to defend yourself. Anyway, that's Carl's opinion. There you go. I got the screws, my pistol, there you go, 8 cameras, DVR, and the windows locked down. Yep, surveillance cameras over here too. Got good screws, good locks, and yes, a pistol as well. So you got it, exactly. And if you have a gun, it should, always be within arm's reach. Put it on a holster. Carry it around the house. No big deal. Keep it close. If it's not close, it's useless. If it's not close and somebody's going to break in, there's a couple in Reno. It's a really sad story, Reno, Nevada. Older couple. And there you go. I like that. That's good. But let's see. So, but anyway, so what was I going to say real quick? So, anyway, this couple in Reno, older couple, and what happened, they had a gun in the house, but they didn't have it nearby. Guy broke in, overpowered this older couple. They were older. This guy was younger, obviously. Physically manhandled them, got their gun, found their gun or made them tell them where it was or whatever, and then shot them both with their own gun and killed them. It was a really sad story. It was in Reno, maybe about 6, 7, 8 months ago. So, if you have a gun in the house and you plan on using it for home protection, if it's not arm's reach, it's not any good. So, but anyway, let's get back to this story. Didn't mean to get off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. But anyway, so Army post to house migrant children. Migrant children will be housed at an Army post in Oklahoma. As again, this is from the Wall Street Journal. There we go. Wall Street Journal. Ta-da! Migrant children will be housed at an Army post in Oklahoma as the government struggles to meet growing demands for shelter amid a sharp rise in immigrants being apprehended at the border. An estimated 1,400 children will be temporarily housed at Fort Sill, a 150-year-old Army post near Lawton, Oklahoma. Yeah, it was like used to fight, the Indians. Okay, about 80 miles southwest of the state capital. The government said, blah. The Department of Health and Human Services, which is tasked with taking care of children aged 17 and under after they are apprehended by Homeland Security, attributed the need for an additional facility to dramatic spike in referrals of children, an HHS representative said Wednesday. Okay. And in the past 4 months, excuse me, in the past 4 months of 2019, 40,891 migrant children. Wow. In the first 4 months, okay, check this number out again. In the first 4 months of 2019, 40,891 migrant children were placed in the care of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, according to agency data. A 57% increase over the year earlier period. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Authority said last week they had apprehended 132,000 people at the border between official entry points in May, including a record 84,000 traveling in family groups and an additional 11,507 unaccompanied children. If the rate of apprehensions and referrals continues at that pace, ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, estimates it will care for the largest number of migrant children in its nearly 40-year history. The record stands at 59,170 children in 2016, and we are up to how much? 40,891 in the first 4 months of 2019. We are at 40,891 migrant children in 2019. The record in the 40-year history of this Office of Refugee Resettlement is only 59,000. So obviously we're going to break the record this year if things keep going the way they're going. That's crazy. That's crazy. HHS, Health and Human Services, already operates approximately 168 facilities and programs across 23 states. How much is that costing? How much is that costing? Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just freaking crazy. 168 facilities and programs across 23 states. But a deepening humanitarian crisis on the border is straining federal agencies. As demand for housing migrant children increased this year, I mean, you see them just walking up the damn highway. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this has gotten way out of control. I mean, something has to be done about this. This is amazing. I mean, this is just, and people are just sitting back going, "Oh, it's no big deal." I mean, Jesus. The one thing that the mayor said, he says, "Look, it's not even fair to the people coming across, because when they come across here, we just when they eventually cut them loose, we tell them they're not even allowed, to work, because we don't want them, we warn them with a green card and say, here's a green card, you made it across, have a nice day, and then we never see them again." No, they said these people we just cut them loose into society. It's like, here, well, go on, you're on your own, give it a shot. Well, of course, though, here's the problem, though. We all know they're not on their own when they get cut loose. Because when they get cut loose, they apply for social services. And they go to California, they get everything. They get health care. They get their version of Section 8 housing from the state of California. They get California Medicaid. They get immediately put into schools. They get clothing, food, money allowances, cash. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Why not? We're just like, hey, taxpayers got to pay for everybody else in the world. We just got to pay for everybody else. Hey, come here, get some free shit. No problem. Don't worry, your neighbors who have been working hard and have families here for generations to build something, just take all their money. We don't need it. Just go ahead, just take our money. No deal. No big deal. As I covered yesterday, in California, it cost them $23 billion a year, or whatever the number was. But one number I do remember was that it was $1,800 per household in California to pay for illegal immigration in the state of California. $1,800 per year per household in the state of California. These people come across saying, "Oh well, they should talk to their neighbors. Say, oh, you got to pay $1,800 a year for that? Oh, wow, that's awfully nice of you. Thanks for doing it." Well, no, it's like we're not doing it voluntarily. If we don't pay it, somebody's going to come and arrest us. Oh, well, thank you anyway. It's like, hey, shut up. Anyway, so demand for housing migrant children increased this year. The department has been eyeing other government facilities around the country. The HHS representative said the agency plans to open a site in Carrizo Springs, Texas, as a temporary emergency influx facility for children, and is considering an additional temporary shelter for children near the Santa Teresa land port entry in New Mexico. Well, isn't that just great? Yay! All right. Oh, my God. All right. So I was trying to find some good news. I don't think I found any. Let me see. Man, I gotta end this on some good news story. Let me find a good news story here. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Nope. That's not any good. Okay, let's check this. Let's check this newspaper. Maybe this will have some good news. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Not a lot of good news out there right now. This immigration thing is really pissing me off big time. I don't know what to do with it. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, if you have good news, you want to call in with some good news, phone number 775-273-8970. We can end the live stream with some good news. So see, it's Generation X's, in the words of my people, everyone sucks. Well, yeah, but yeah, if anybody's got any good news, want to call them a good news story, so I can end the live stream with a good news story, I would appreciate it. Let's see. Let's see. Mm-hmm. No, that's not any good. I'm trying to find some stories here. I mean, busily searching for some good news stories, and I cannot find one. Let's see. Let's try another news source. Hold on. All right, let's try one more. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. I thought that was a myth. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Mm-hmm. Nope. Well, okay. I wasn't able to find a good news story to end the. Let's see. Nope. Anyway, I was not able to end the live stream on a good news story. I do apologize for that. So we're gonna have to just end it with the terrible immigration news story. We're getting ready to break a record on the in the last 40 years, 40-year record on the number of illegal immigrant children that we're caring for in the United States. There we go. The previous record was 59,000. We're over 40,000 and change right now in the first 4 months of the year for 2019. So it looks like we're about to break the record. So there you go. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. I've been on for about just under an hour and a half, and I just want to thank everybody who's been in the chat room tonight, and everybody who's been viewing us, and everybody's going to be viewing us later. So for Carl's opinion, this is Carl. I want to thank everybody. Everybody, hey, have a great night tonight, and we'll see you next time. So take care, guys. All right. Bye-bye.